everyone. Thanks for joining in again. This is the fifth talk in our series, and uh, really delighted to have Vidya with us, Vidya Athreya. Vidya has been working on leopards for a very long time, over a decade maybe, and she's been exploring the whole concept of shared spaces, of how people and wildlife live alongside each other. And there's a lot that Vidya could have spoken about, but we were in touch with Vidya and we were trying to figure out what might be worth focusing on for this 1 hour that we have with her. So Vidya has been really busy giving talks. In fact, I found out that Vidya, you're talking at 7:30 in the evening today for an Outlook magazine talk, because there were some people reaching out to me to check if this was the same talk or this was a different talk. So thanks for making time. And for the sake of today's discussion, we thought we would focus on one of the examples that she has worked on, alongside a lot of other people, some of whom are also on the call today. So we'll go into those details as we go forward. But it promises to be an exciting talk. The format will remain the same, like we have been doing. A slight modification. So Vidya will obviously be talking, but you might have some of us also adding and chipping in while she's talking, or maybe even posing questions to her. But eventually, we hope all of us can ask our questions and clarify whatever doubts or points we might want to have clarified with Vidya through the course of this discussion. And like last time, we'd encourage people to sort of unmute and ask their questions, so which might be nice to have a discussion going. All right. So let's get straight up. And I thought we could start with a quiz, something like a question I would like to pose. So in India, there is this version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So basically, the host asks you one question, and people have to sort of try and answer, and whoever gets the right answer is sort of get something, and so on. So I'm going to share the names of 5 cities, 5 global cities. And what I would like you to do is to try and rank these cities from the lowest to the highest, in terms of the population density. So which city do you think has the fewest number of people per square kilometer, to the city which you think has the highest number of people per square kilometer? And you can maybe type it out in the chat window, if that's easy. And Justine will keep an eye out, and whoever gets it right at the end, we might have a special surprise for them. So is that clear? We thought it might just be a good thing to start, because it's afternoon in most places. And so your cities are Ulaanbaatar, Bishkek, Islamabad, Beijing, and Mumbai. Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan, Islamabad in Pakistan, Beijing in China, and Mumbai, which is in India. So which of these 5 do you think has the lowest human population density, and subsequently which has the highest, going from lowest to highest? So if you guys can just maybe take 30 seconds, and I will share.
Can you repeat the names just again one more time?
It's UB, Ulaanbaatar.
UB.
Second is Bishkek. The third is Islamabad in Pakistan. The fourth is Beijing or Peking in China, and the fifth is Mumbai, which is in India.
And we'll write it in the chat, yeah?
Yeah. Cool. What's the question? Kaustubh, I thought you answered the question. People are ranking cities on lowest to highest human population density. Right. So I think we have several. Yeah, I think you did it by default.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think many of you have taken a shot at it, and many of you have at least got the first and the last one right. So let me just disclose the answer. So the lowest in these cities is Ulaanbaatar, which is about 275 people per square kilometer. The next is surprise is Beijing, actually, because Beijing seems to be a very large city, though it has a large population. So it says it's 1,300 people per square kilometer. That is followed by Islamabad, which has about 2,000 people per square kilometer, which is followed by Bishkek, which was surprising to me, which has about 6,000 people per square kilometer. And I think something that all of you have got right is the fact that Mumbai has the highest. But any guess how high that is? It's about 5 times higher than its closest competitor. So it's about 30,000 people per square kilometer. So imagine a city which has 30,000 people living in 1 square kilometer area of the city. And for most of us, it's hard to imagine because we usually attribute wildlife with these pristine areas. And one often wonders if there is any wildlife at all in a place that can have so many people. So what I would now like to do is share a short video that Vidya had shared with me. And maybe we can just give me a second. Yeah. Um, is my screen visible now?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Pigs. These leopards prefer to
आणि त्याला बी
hunt
एक दोन
to mate.
जास्ती आहे ना
People
मग?
have brought to this
केवढं आहे इथं?
considerable number. The pigs keep their family close. The ceaseless noise of the city plays to their advantage. It conceals their approach. And the leopards are using this cover to hunt all over the city. This is a thriving population. In fact, the highest concentration of leopards in the world is right here.
Right. So I hope most of you were able to see that video. It's quite a chilling video, and so that is the place where Vidya's work has been, and this project that she's going to talk to us about is based out of. And also that when it began, I think in 2010, there were some of us who were volunteering in the project. So there's Dipti who's here with us, and even I was part of this project very way back in 2000. 11 and 12. So as we go along this discussion, you might find us also sharing some of our inputs from the experiences that we had. But I think it'll be nice for Vidya to really share the story of this whole project and maybe start by telling us what she was thinking about when she thought of starting work in Mumbai, which usually people may not necessarily think of being a place where wildlife really exists. So Vidya, I'll also be sharing your PowerPoint, so you can let me know if you want me
Sure.
to.
Yeah, so just hold on that for a couple of seconds.
Sure.
Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me for this, and it's really nice to see a lot of friendly faces from the past. So, and when you asked me to join this conversation and talk about the work, I realized that you were also part of it. So I thought it'll be really nice if we talk about the project and maybe have it as a discussion. And I'm really happy to see that Dipti is also joined. So, yeah, so I grew up in Bombay, and when I started my wildlife days, I would go to Sanjay Gandhi National Park every weekend. Okay, my mom thought I was cuckoo, but I would go every Sunday, to watch birds and to generally be in this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so in 2011, see, we knew that the park had leopards and had a lot of problem in 2004, 2005, like early 2000s, the problem started. But I was living there in late 1980s, and there was no problem then. There were leopards and stuff. But around early 2000s, the problem was really severe. And in 2004, if I remember right, in the single month of May, there were 19 attacks on people by leopards, and it was just going crazy. There were some people saying, oh, let's release some rabbits and pigs, domestic pigs, because the leopards have nothing to eat. So they're killing. The current chief minister, Mr. Vidya Athreya, I remember, the forest department had a meeting with him, and he was one of the few people to ask a very pertinent question. He was like, they've been here all along. Why are they having a problem now? And nobody was able to tell him, but a few of us piped up and we said, in the neighboring Junnar area, a lot of leopards have been released near a particular site where attacks on people have started. And we all knew that that was also the reason why attacks on people had happened in Bombay, because the solution to see a leopard there by people living around the park was, oh, they are not supposed to be here. And they would put a lot of political pressure on the forest department to trap these animals. It was also seen as a park, which was a nice leopard forest. So leopards from other parts of Maharashtra would be got to this place, which had the only veterinary care at that time. And then after they were fine, they would just be released over there because they were like, oh, this is a leopard forest. So we realized that even based on our analysis of the increase in human attacks by leopards in the Junnar area, which is published in 2011 in Conservation Biology, and we knew also from management experience, like the forest officials knew that this was creating a problem, but they couldn't do anything because the mindset of the people, media, everybody was, you need to take them out. So we knew that we had to change the mindset. Just capture release was worsening the problem. But we didn't do anything for a long time because pretty much the park was shut to everybody. They were suspicious of researchers, they were suspicious of media, and nobody. It was not a friendly place to work in. In 2011, a really dynamic forest officer came in, and that was also the year I was, I had to finish writing up my PhD thesis. I submitted it in 2012. So when he came, he like, oh, Vidya, and I had worked with him like way back in 2005, so when he was stationed somewhere else, Mr. Limay. So he's like, no, you should come and we should do something here. I said, look, boss, I don't have the bandwidth. I'm supposed to be writing my PhD thesis. He said, don't worry, I'll do everything. You just come on board, which is really nice, because, and it was really nice the way the partnership evolved, because I realized that I am just a catalyst. I can only do this much, but he's the person who can actually change the whole thing around. And that's how it started. It was basically a personal connection between two well-meaning people who belong to two different groups, one a biologist and one a manager. So maybe I will show the slides now and then we can talk more. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a fantastic image taken by Steve Winter, which is a bridge, at the periphery of the park, which leopards use. I think he found more than like 12, 15 leopards using this bridge. And the people are also using this bridge, but the people had no idea that the leopards were using the bridge. So, yeah, next, please.
Do you want me to show the
Yeah, yeah.
tour of
The Google Earth.
Yeah.
So I'm not as good as Kaustubh at doing this, but I tried my best yesterday. So that's Mumbai for y'all. And if you go closer, which I think it'll in a second, that's Sanjay Gandhi National Park, the green part. And you can see how hard the boundary is between the park and human densities of 20,000 per square kilometer. Yeah, there's no buffer, it's 0 and 1. Yeah, Jay, you can maybe go on the next slide.
Sure.
How big is the area, Vidya?
Yeah, sorry, good question. The area is 103 square kilometers, and there's a small patch to the south, which is Arya Milk Colony, which I think is another 12 square kilometers. So it's no more than 120 square kilometers. But and the only way connectivity is to the northern rural landscape. So the park has a small patch in the north. It is cut by a creek. And then the entire rural landscape starts from there where leopards do exist. Yeah, next.
Yeah, so just to sort of put that in context, the size of the park I found out is just about the size of Bishkek city, because Bishkek city is apparently 120 square kilometers, and Mumbai is counted as being 600 square kilometers. So you're roughly 1/5 of that is this.
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah. And the thing is, leopards are doing, this is just adjoining the park. It's in a building lobby, at 2 a.m. in the morning. And for us, this is like not natural and it shouldn't be doing it. But from the leopard's point of view, like the building people say, it's some sixth dog the leopard has taken from the lobby. So from the leopard's perspective, it's totally okay to do it. Yeah, I think. Next, please. So just to quickly go, like, does removal and translocation help? Removal, if we see a leopard, not because it has done anything, just the fact of seeing a leopard in a place we don't expect it to be, and then we remove it, and then we say, okay, let us go leave it in this forest area because the poor thing is straying. So does that work? Next, please. So this is a story of a cat whom we named Azoba for a grandfather, and people found him so fascinating that an entire feature film in the local language was made on him. And he essentially, you can see the yellow points from the east to the west. The west is Mumbai. So he walked 125 kilometers in 25 days, crossed a national highway, crossed a railway station, crossed 2 wildlife sanctuaries where he didn't want to stay, and he went to Sanjay Gandhi National Park and lived there for 2 years till he was found dead. Now, his place of capture is a red spot at the easternmost, like above Google, GOO, there's a little pink dot. That was where he was captured. And that entire green thing you can see near his capture site are irrigated landscapes down above GOO, Ajay. You see a red spot, yeah. So he was released where the cursor is, thinking that, oh, this is a low human density landscape and it's a, some little bit forest and he would like to live there. But no, he didn't want to live there. And look at the kind of movements they do, and almost entirely in a human dominated landscape. Because only the green blobs that you see on the western part near Bombay are the wildlife sanctuaries. Yeah. And there's a tiny one, Bhima Shankar is also there, which is at the, in the center below, which is again another 100 square kilometers. No more further to the east on top of the Ghats, Ajay. Still middle. But that's okay. Yeah. Next, please. So one night, I mean, you can see the red spots on the hills, and you can see a red spot between the two roads. So that he was in Vasai Industrial Estate near Bombay for a moment, and I was so scared, but he didn't do anything to anybody. Next, please. And he crossed this creek and he went to the main national park where the cursor is, and then he swam back. Yeah, where he used to live. Next, please. That's about 100 meters, I think, he swam. Next, please. So this is just to show the pink and the purple spots are leopards that were trapped in a irrigated landscape, agricultural landscape. They were trapped there and they were released there. The other two animals, yellow coat and the green coat, were trapped in one place and released in another place. And they, the green one, she went back home. The yellow one, he also moved a really large distance, and we believe Bombay was his home, but it's a complex, another story. But this in a nutshell, to tell you that they don't use the landscape the way we want them to use. They will do what they have to do. And, we have to live with that. And just removal doesn't help, because there are more animals that come and occupy that vacant territory. And at the end of the day, if there is a problem the people have, we have to address those problems. Just removing the animal doesn't help in the long term. Next, please.
Vidya, can I ask a question, or should we?
Sure, of course.
At the end. Oh, okay. So I was always curious, and I'm sorry if this is naive, but I was always curious to know what constitutes the decision behind getting released somewhere else or in the same place. Like, as you said, right? Like a couple of them were released where they were caught, for instance. I mean, I understand it might be very political, and there might be different factors, but yeah, it's always intriguing for me to know, what goes
Sure.
behind.
So one thing is, the ones which are caught and released at the same site, they were our study animals, and we were working closely with the forest department there. So they were, they were like, okay, fine, do it. But the other two animals were outside our area of jurisdiction. Okay, one had fallen in a well, in another adjoining district, and another one had again in the adjoining district. So we couldn't influence the decision. We had permission to call her, and we just called her, and then we just, followed it. But having said that, that is one point. The second point is that, who decides? It's actually quite arbitrary, and it's essentially some one or two people, and it'll depend whether they have the time or they care or not. Almost always it is at the edge of an administrative boundary. So the southern one that you saw, he was released just across the border of the district that he was caught in. Even the green one, she was also released at the boundary of another administrative division. And it's almost everywhere that's the case. And it's across states and across districts. Like Maharashtra, near the border with Gujarat, it'll go leave it just in Gujarat. Gujarat again will come and leave it in Maharashtra. And I've read a letter of a leopard that was released long back, 2005, just into, close to the border of MP, and then it went on to kill a kid over there. And then the Chief Wildlife Warden MP wrote saying, you have released your animal here. So, it becomes it's sad, but it's essentially they don't want that troubling animal in their jurisdiction, and they think that time they used to think that if you just leave it across, it will go somewhere else and become somebody else's problem. So these are mainly political decisions, but working and engaging with them, you can bring about a change. Like my study area, for instance, I think now what they are doing is they just leave it nearby, and they've never had a problem. See, the capture is because of a political problem. Like the people have a problem, and unless you engage with it beforehand, before it becomes a problem, the only solution you many times have is to just capture it. But I'll talk more about it after. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. That's
yeah. Okay. So Bombay is a really interesting case. Around 2004, 2005, they had almost 30 attacks on people every year. And there was large-scale capture and release. Capture was seen as the only solution. And we realized that how much ever we tell the forest department, don't catch, the pressure comes from even above them, because the people used to directly call like Delhi and all, to put pressure on the forest department to catch. So that means we had to change the mindset. Okay, next, please. And so 2011, when Limaye sir came in as a park manager, we had a discussion, what do we do? So I told him, that we've done so much research, we actually know what the problem is. I mean, do you want to do another research project, or let's try out something new where we, I mean, even I didn't know what to do, because there was, it was just like, I had not thought about it or done this that time. But I said, why not we just involve everybody and have this citizen volunteer led project? I guess it may be now in retrospect, I was too busy with my PhD or something. I have no idea why that came about, but it was really good that it did. So the good thing about an officer like him, and I think that's really crucial when we have partnerships, is that I know what his strengths are and he knows what my strengths are, and we used to really trust each other. I mean, I think that's incredible, because, and then he was like, okay, let us do it. What if he hadn't believed me, and what if he had said, no, like, maybe we need to do a research project or something, or, I don't know. So I think trust is really essential in partnerships, and that way, you are allowed to experiment, you're allowed to say, okay, I went wrong, and you're allowed to take a step back, or in both parties. So I think, I really appreciate that from his side. So what we realized is, we told him that, have a really good, we realized that what was happening, people would see the leopards outside the park, and they would immediately call the park, because, anything wild has to be under the park's management. But technically, it is in the park is under the jurisdiction of the wildlife division, and areas outside are under the jurisdiction of a territorial division. Now, the guy in charge of the territorial division sits somewhere far away, but the public doesn't know that. So the public would call the park, then the park would say, oops, sorry, not our jurisdiction, call the territorial guys. Now, the territorial guys, they have too many other things than to sit and bother about a leopard somewhere. So they'd say, no, we'll come on Monday, or, they were just, it was not important to them. So then one of the first things that he did was, he said, let's have a control room, and anybody who sees it, responds. So that was done. Then excellent training was given to the rescue team, and they were given really good equipment and dresses. Now, this is really important, because it's like a police in civil clothes, trying to manage a crowd. No way, nobody's going to listen to him. But if he's in a uniform, it makes a lot of difference. So you can see here in this picture, this is Mumbai. It can become a mob. Look at the number of people. I don't think there's been a single negative rescue since 2011. I mean, they are applauded, and people like to take selfies with them, people help them. And I think when the administration shows it can do something and it's good at doing something, people automatically really respect and value that, and appreciate that. Next, please.
Yeah. Sorry, just got stuck.
No problem. Yeah. So another thing what has happened is that, the moment people see a leopard now, immediately the forest department rescue team with a veterinarian go and just patrol and monitor the area. In simply put, they are addressing people's fear and people's concern, and that before a problem has happened, and that itself makes such a big difference. Because they're like, okay, the admin has come to help us, and they'll talk to them and say what happened, where was it, and they'll go and patrol for a few days. And now a lot of volunteers also help the forest department in this. Next, please. So another thing is, like here in this picture, even Deepthi and a lot of other people have also done it, and they're continuing to do it even today, which 10 years down the line. But here Vidya Venkatesh, she lives in an area where leopards are there in Bombay, and she goes when a building has seen a leopard in their complex or something. People like her go and tell the other people that this is what is the issue. They are going to come because this is their landscape. There are dogs, but they are scared of you. But this is what you need to do to keep yourself and your family safe. So the targeted message is more at people's safety. It is not about saving the animal. It is about saving people, because automatically then when people are, okay, fine, the leopard is coming. I mean, they are not aggressive. They're more understanding, and they're willing to listen to you when a problem arises. And all this is done beforehand, before a real problem arises. Just a sighting, and all this is done even today. Next, please. Very, very important is the role of the police, because you see mob situations, and there's no way anybody can control a mob except the police, who are in charge of law and order. Now, what Mr. Limay did, and here is where the partnership between managers and non-managers is crucial, because he knew the senior most police official in law and order Mumbai, and he took an appointment with him, and we all went, the Mumbaikar group, and we gave him a short presentation, and we said, we need your help, because all the police stations which are in sensitive areas, we would like to just have like a 10-minute session with them, requesting their help in emergency situations. And in the picture you can see, I think that's Shailesh Rao, if I'm not mistaken, there is the rescue team members, and then the police personnel. So everybody goes, and just simple messaging, because the police initially would say, oh, it's your leopard, why don't you just keep it inside the park? What have we got to do with this? But then we have to tell them that, the leopard doesn't listen to you or me, because we have uniforms and we need your help. So there have been many cases where police by themselves have cordoned off, and the leopard has gone off even before the forest department has come. So interdepartmental relationships are super important. Next, please. And if you ask me, no other group is as important as the media, and it's incredible. How do they support? One is that the media earlier used to just report sensational news, like it was man-eater, even though the leopard hadn't looked at a man in all his life, it had become a man-eater, on paper and stuff. So, and we are not telling them report positive news. No, we are not. All we are telling them is that we need your help so that people are helped and the animal are helped. So report, we will give you all the news, report whatever you want, but do not sensationalize it, because it's really bad for both the people and the wildlife. And what has happened is, like, it's still ongoing, and the media people themselves are now, training media students, and the Mumbaikars for SGNP, which is the voluntary group that partners with the forest department, is still having media workshops. So what has happened today is that the media themselves, without even an external intervention, they correct their media colleagues when they see something that's not written fine in the media, which I think is incredible, because there's no other agency which can change mindsets like the media can. And what the media people tell us is that earlier there was absolutely no interaction with the forest department. So when we don't hear anything, we will make up our own news. But if the forest department is transparent about what they're doing, even if they say, okay, we haven't done this, but we are trying to do this, it still makes you report the truth and not some fiction that you have imagined. Next, please. So we actually did, colleagues of mine who are more well-versed in this content analysis, which is not my forte, they actually did a before and after this Mumbai Curse for SGNP project. They just analyzed the content of the headlines. Okay, and they found it makes a big difference. Although conflict was much lesser, the reporting was more. The reporting was more about how to, proactively do something about it. So it's not that you need conflict all the time, because these animals are fascinating. All the species that we work on, elephants, leopards, snow leopards, people are fascinated by them. They want to read about them. They want to look at their imagery. So the media is, even our camera trapping simple exercise was like this full page thing, because it's nice to see that. So always engage with the media, and it has to be a continuous engagement, is my recommendation. Next, please. But it's really important what we talk and to whom. Okay. In these issues where people are having a perceived or a real problem to wild animals, we cannot go and tell them save the animal, because it's really bad to go tell, I mean, I can't even say bad is the word. It's terrible to go tell a marginal farmer, who's lost property, that, oh, you need to save the tiger or the leopard. It doesn't work. But, targeting a more humane, empathetic approach, which is again part of the paper that we will be discussing about, is really important. And again, partnership is really important. Even today, the Mumbai Curse. So I have not been actively part of the project since 2013. Even that forest officer who started it left it in 2013. But the project is going on great even now. It's not a paid project. Almost all the work is done voluntarily. So here again, I think we haven't tapped the social service angle, which is there in every society. Why do the people want to help? They want to help because they want to contribute to the park. They want to contribute to the leopards. They want to contribute to an issue that is bigger than, everybody wants to contribute. All of us like to do something. And I think we, in conservation circles, we look at the economy of it and the economic value of it. We have never used this value of service to society, which can be, I think, really long lasting, and which can be way more productive. Because initially, we tried paying some volunteers, but getting money in always messes it up, I feel. And why even get it when you can use a much deeper, bigger feeling of society, of service to society? So next, please. So the amazing thing is the park managers now, it's the third park manager, okay, who's already gone now, and it has continued. He was saying that now people no longer phone saying put up a trap. They phone and say come and give us awareness sessions, which I think is really awesome. Yeah. Next, please. So there's a very interesting paper by Frederick Landy. If anybody wants it, you can email Ajay. I will send him a copy. And he's a geographer. So he talks about leopards, going between boundaries of park and the other jurisdictions of other, the police station, and forcing different stakeholders to get together to negotiate with the leopard. Ideally, we should have done it before a problem arose, but the leopard has forced us to do it. And if you ask me, my experience, not just in Bombay, but my entire work, everywhere, and looking at other people's work, like, Ganesh and Anand's in Valparai and Charu's and the snow leopard team elsewhere, you cannot focus on the animal and expect long-term results. You have to focus on the people. And especially in these issues where the leopard is transgressing so-called boundaries, no amount of capture release is going to help. No amount of telling the leopard, dude, don't stray in here, is going to help. But when you talk to people, those are the only groups of species we can communicate with, and the results are much more, better. Next, please. So simply put, proactive response, well-prepared administration, partnerships, involvement of citizens, and helping people so their safety concerns are first taken care of, really important. Now, just to tell you about involvement of citizens, you know, because in India, every 3 years, the managers change, and even the managers will tell you, oh, the next guy who comes in is going to totally undo whatever I did and want to do something that she or he wants to do, you know. Just like us biologists, everybody has an ego. So, but the cool thing about this project is, I think, and if you ask me, I haven't done an analysis or something, but I think the glue that has held this together is that the citizens and the media are so involved that it doesn't matter who comes and goes, because these people have taken it upon themselves that we are going to, you know, we've come so far, we've done a great job, and we are going to just take along the next manager and take him along for the happy ride. You know, I mean, in short, if I were to say it. So therefore, it becomes really important if you have like the local community being part of it and wanting it. I think the administration doesn't have a choice but to go with it. So I think that's really an important part of any conservation project. Yeah, next, please. So a lot of you know, the issues written here resonate with, you know, our work. And I think that's, I think that's about it. I finished pretty early, right? Yeah, I did.
But it's a fascinating topic, and I'm sure we'll have lots of questions from people to ask, because we'll open up questions. So if there are people who might want to ask questions now.
Just a minute,
yeah.
I have a question, Ajay.
Sure.
So now
Sure,
both you and Dipti are here, and you all were part of the project. I just want to know from y'all, how did y'all view the project?
Sure. Dipti, do you want to go first? Okay, then maybe I can answer. So yeah, for me this was around the time 2010 to 2012, and like you said, Vidya, I was living close to the park, not very close, but around the park, and I had been going into the park as a young boy and so on, and but I wasn't a wildlife biologist. I'm still not, but even then I was not. But I was really hoping to contribute in some way, because I had benefited from spending time in the park and doing a lot of you know, just some happy memories from the park. And when I found out about this project, I remember writing to you, and sort of I still remember the work I had done, because what I had then done was I had gone and mapped the locations where leopards had died from roadkill. So there were about, I forget, 20 odd locations. So I had, and this was across the periphery of the park, and we had done a short report on that. And yeah, so, and one of the reasons I did that, and I was still sort of continued to be engaged in whatever capacity I could, was because I saw this as a way to contribute meaningfully without necessarily being someone who was trained in wildlife, or you know, someone who was seeing this as a full-time thing. So yeah, I think that's what appealed to me.
Okay.
Yeah,
any questions?
Yeah, hi.
Dipti, do you want to share your experience of SJ?
I would just like to say that, you know, at the time when Vidya actually got in touch, I mean, I was there at the meeting right at the beginning with Lemay sir and Vidya, but then my Chambal work took over. And when I came back, I think Vidya really wanted me to go and reach out to people, because, you know, institutions, they give value to you if you come with that badge of a wildlife biologist. And I just finished my master's and was working on another study. But, you know, having lived in an area which also has the same issue. I mean, I grew up right next to the park. When we were kids, our school bus used to, you know, go pick up kids, and there was this one particular stop where, if those friends were not there, we knew that a leopard had just crossed, and they'd be scared and run into the house. So, you know, coming
some disturbance. Is there a mobile nearby or something? There was some static kind of disturbance. Yeah.
We are good now. Sorry.
Yeah. But can't hear you. Can't.
She's. Dipti, we
You've
can't
turned it
hear you.
off.
Her internet maybe.
I think.
Yeah, maybe her internet is.
Oh, her headphones died and her earphones are not working, I think.
Maybe we can open up the floor to other questions until she gets back and then try to link her back. Ajay?
Ajay is also frozen.
Oh no, we're losing everyone.
Yeah, he's back again.
Back.
I'm back.
As long as we don't lose you, Vidya.
I don't know.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have questions then for Vidya?
For Vidya, yeah. Maybe I can start. I have two questions, Vidya. One is, I think I've always been fascinated, and I kind of get stuck with this point on the fact that the whole effort of Mumbaikars was actually voluntary. It was done by volunteers. And like you said, it was, I think when it started off in 2010 even until now. So one question, while you were coordinating the project in the initial days, how did you manage to sort of keep these motivations going, or what were the kind of challenges you might have faced? Because I'm sure everyone was coming in with all the best intentions they had, but any something that you could share on that?
That's a really good question. So the thing is, why it was voluntary was because we just didn't have funds in the first place to pay anybody, okay? And we just had money for some petrol and stuff, but we didn't have much money. But then we also realized, like, I was, doing it voluntary, and Vidya Venkatesh she was the coordinator, she was doing it voluntary. And we realized also when the camera trapping started, like you, everybody wanted to contribute, okay? And now when I look back, like I had worked in the rural landscape, over there in Akole, and when you look at how this rural society works, it's so much about social service. It's so much about doing things for society. It is about helping each one. And I think these are integral. I think these are really deep things that are part of any society, if you ask me. It's just that we urban people are probably the most distanced from it. Okay. So, and this is if you ask me now, and, I believe that this economic, there's my really noisy cat, economic payments are a very, very Western concept, and it is also a very urban concept, okay? But I think something that is way more, like everybody in this group, I'm sure would want, like the migrant crisis or any other crisis, I'm sure everybody contributed some, like in India at least, yeah? We want to help, and we want to help for a good cause. And I think when you make this a good cause, where you are aiding either wildlife conservation or aiding the protection of Sanjay Gandhi National Park, which all of us have loved and visited as a kid, I think it's a far deeper, better motivation for most people. Like Vidya Venkatesh, even today she says, the park gave me so much that I just want to contribute to it. So everybody, like the hundreds of volunteers that we get even today, it is because of that. And I think that is something I would like the moment you get money in, no, it's gone. Especially in a corrupt society like India, like, at least mainland India, it's terrible. So I prefer this, using a social service route to get the work done. Nice to see you, Juliet.
Lovely to see you too. Thank you for a brilliant talk.
No, thank you for coming. Yeah.
I think there's a question on the chat, actually.
Yeah,
I
actually,
have a few as well, but I'll wait for that one.
I think Kaustubh wanted to add something. He accidentally sent it.
Can Pooji's written to me. She's about to leave and she would like to ask a question.
I see. Okay, sure,
Can we
sure. Then
let Pooji come in? Pooji,
sure.
go for it.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, thanks for sharing in a nice talk. And I would like to ask you about how, but if the people, somebody killed the snow leopards, the person can go to the prison, or if they need to pay some fine or something like that?
Yeah, so it is, the leopard is a Schedule 1 animal by the Indian law, which means it has the highest protection, and it is very severe penalty if you kill such an animal. So it's legally not at all allowed, and illegally, if you kill it, you have like a big, like it's very serious matter. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, Pooji.
Thanks, Pooji.
Yeah, thank you.
Kaustubh? Is Kaustubh around? Kaustubh wanted to ask something.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I have this disease of talking with a muted mic. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, Vidya. Fantastic
Hi,
talk
Sal.
as always.
Hey, thank you, dear.
Yeah, I mean, 2 or 3 takeaways from this talk. One, it's how it's about persons and personal relationships which can get things started. I think we often underplay this part, in the whole need or whatever objectivity of doing things, through a process. We sometimes do miss out this very critical detail of building that relationship, and I think it cannot be overemphasized, as you very rightly put together. But what really fascinated me the most was how to ensure continuity. And we often struggle that maybe creating a management plan will ensure that when officers change, when ministers change, when senior people at senior positions change, we will be able to seek that continuity. And often you wonder what will ensure that. And the answer that you gave very nicely was that it's when you get the engagement of people, when it becomes people's issue, when people and media and everyone else is wanting it to remain an issue, I think it automatically becomes one. So for me, these two are really very informative and very, very helpful for us as well when we are thinking and planning and conceiving programs and projects, because these two often get underplayed in the need to have those scientific parameters set out there. And of course, I mean, they are reflected fairly well in the partners principles wheel. But yes, I mean, I just love the way you've put it together with a classic example. That was spectacular. Thank you.
Yeah, I also learned it, like, I didn't plan it beforehand, but it's something that I think is important. Say hi to my cat.
She's complaining. I mean, how can you talk without her?
God, he's just so noisy, man. Yeah. So you're muted, Ajay.
Oh, I was just following up to ask Kaustubh, but how do you compare this with, like, in Kyrgyzstan, the experiences you have in Kyrgyzstan with the team?
Again, while I was saying that, that's what I had in mind. I mean, look at Kyrgyzstan. Governments have come and gone, right? But the focus on snow leopard has remained. Yes, it may have gone up and down. There may have been variation in the degree to which it has gone, to which it was a priority. But the the continuity has remained. And I think the key here is that it's people's pride. I mean, we have more of our people from the local, like Ulugh is here, Benazir is here, they'll be able to tell more. But it's really a people's concern now. People are concerned. They're more interested in what's going on, and that has probably ensured that it gets that continuity, which would have otherwise, easily slipped into oblivion had it only been on paper as a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. It's very easy to just swap it over, and I completely, when Vidya said it, it almost like it's like a light bulb moment. That's what has worked. That's what's working, right?
Right.
So same thing.
Thank you, Vidya, for a great talk. And I'm super fascinating. For me, being a Swede, I'm just fascinated by the tolerance. People here, if we had one leopard in the city, we would just remove it. So you're way better. But I was sort of wanting to follow up on Kastub's question. I'm fascinating, like that it's sort of self-going, you said. And I was thinking from the people's perspective. Well, I mean, one, the management is turning over, but then is there any structure involved, or is it just organic that people are just so keen to help that, or do you have sort of some type of a structure or guidance, or it can go any direction? If sort of, yes, what is there any structure? Or
so right now there are a few people managing it, but they were the same people that were there 10 years back. And I think, when I started, I remember that majority of the people used to say the leopards are straying out. So we had to, even people of our own community, like conservationists and, biologists were also saying the same thing. And that one word, straying, was really, really a bad word, because immediately straying means you have to remove it. So what we did was then we asked the forest officer to organize a meeting where everybody was called, and he said over there that from now on, nobody uses the word straying. So I think why I'm saying this is that somewhere the same forest officer has come back as a senior guy over there now. Okay, he's came back last year, so nearly after 8 years, but he's not directly in charge of the park, but he's kind of a leader people look up to. And I think the messaging has become so, like it's been bashed into everybody's heads so much that I don't think the messaging is ever going to change. And the fact that people want to work for the park and there are people still working for the park, I think it's going to remain for quite a while. I mean, I don't know, I just hope so. So there is a kind of a structure, but it is, it's not like there's an office and there are, 4 people, and it's not like that. It's like citizens who are there, who are doing it. So, and there are different activities happening. The good thing is the management has become so open to people that all kinds of researchers, all kinds of media, everybody is allowed to come and work. So it's, created this community of people who care for the issue and the park, I think. Yeah. So not a good answer back, but yeah.
Can I ask a comment? Can I comment / ask
Sure.
the back of that, if that makes sense? And maybe this is a very personal opinion, which might be absolutely wrong. So, like the Mumbai case study fascinates me because I wonder, I mean, to me, it speaks about a sense of place and identity. And I wonder if some of the things along the lines of media and, like wanting to safeguard not only the park, but also like the issues in the right vein of things happened a lot because people had that sense of place, either they were living there, like Dipti said herself, Ajay said that herself. And I always feel conflicted. And here I'd be super interested to know what our colleagues in Kyrgyzstan and Mongolia also feel about this, because we have a few here. Like in India, maybe when it comes to the snow leopard and snow leopard landscape, a lot of people don't necessarily, though they have a lot of compassion and connect to the place, but they may not have that sense of place in the same way Mumbaikars did. So it's always almost romanticizing about something that's out there. Like for me, I also grew up in Mumbai, but I work in snow leopard landscape, for instance, And I wonder if that's very, very essential and core to picking up that point about, okay, let's not use the word stray, because this is us. It's me who live right here. So I wonder if a lot of work in snow leopard landscape, at least in the Indian context or other countries, does suffer from that a bit, because people are very, very well-meaning, but maybe there is also a disconnect, just because you're not from there always. I mean, we work with people from there, but a lot of us, as in us, in terms of like the biologists or well-meaning conservationists, are always trying to enter that space. But Mumbaikars were in that space all along, so it was easy. Yeah, I'd love to hear people's thought on that.
Can I comment? Yeah. So that's a really nice question, but I think it is, even if you're an outsider, like, there's this landscape Junnar, right? Which had very high conflict again, 2001, 2002, and the local NGO and local forest department, they decided to have rapid response village teams, because just to go to the village would itself take such a long time, and there were leopards living here. So recently, forest officers from Uttarakhand, which is another state, had come to Maharashtra on an exposure visit, and they had gone to this Junnar landscape. So the village response team members are just members chosen by the panchayat for being this village response teams, which are just basically trained, and then they're given a uniform, just so that they look different when they attend such situations. So apparently, one person was asked, like, why have you joined this village response team? And he was like, oh, I'm a medical doctor and I wanted to contribute to it. So at which instance the forest officer told him, okay, you are getting your money from, your profession. So this is okay to do it as a part-time. But then there was this other guy who was just a farmer's son, and he asked him, why are you part of this? Because you're not getting any money from it. So he said, in this role, even like the biggest administrative person in the village is willing to engage with me because it improves your stature in society, which was really interesting for me. Because earlier he was like, I was like anybody else. Nobody would give me two hoots. But here, doing this work has given me a stature in society. And I think that is, again, something that we have not explored too much. And I believe human beings everywhere are the same, Bombay be it, or even the rural landscapes. It's just that we haven't tried out these kind of things in many places to say that. So that's my response.
It relates to the champion discussions, doesn't it, Ajay, that we've talked about with the partner principles. And Vidya, just to explain, I think maybe Ajay can explain it better, but we try to engage with local staff as well, but not only hire with like money involved, but just engage and have them stand for the work we're doing or getting involved. And we call them, I don't know if that's the best word at the moment, champions of the cause. Yes. And it's similar. It's like they get a role in society and in their community, but they also are distanced and not directly so involved in our work to say, they're from our organization. They take ownership as well in the work.
Right.
Yeah. Add quickly to what Munib was saying about what he thought in Mumbai, where people think that it's exotic and different. So then there's. Is that what you were saying, Munib? Sorry, just I missed a little bit of it. But were you saying that in Mumbai, people feel like it's there's more value in the leopard as compared to in Spiti with local communities? Because it feels like it's different.
Well, no, I think what I was trying to say was in Mumbai, maybe there is a sense of place and not from the, I'm not comparing like Mumbaikars to people in Spiti. Like for instance, it was upon the people, the issue was right there. So, there was an onus and the people saw the importance of doing something about it, rather than an outside authority coming in and being like, something needs to be done here. So, I thought that is a very key ingredient. Like, I mean, when I think of issues, environmental issues or whatever, like for instance, mining, like I always think the strongest voices of the community, if they're like, okay, we are against this, I feel like, that right. They will like probably is a very strong voice. I mean, it might not stop the mine or whatever. So from that sense, I was saying, I thought the Mumbai case study really shows, to me personally, the sense of space, where people are volunteering and they're like, okay, no, we need to change the media, or we need to have these, because maybe they're right there, and I think that's important. Maybe with Snow Leopard, it's a bit more of exotic or romanticizing, it's up there in the mountains, and we're trying to get into that inner circle.
Yeah, but I think what I want to say for that was, I think with communities in this, because who we're looking at is different, right? Like Mumbai is mostly an urban population, and probably that's why we're thinking of it as us, and you're understanding that. But I mean, looking at it from that perspective. But I think, for example, in Spiti as well, they have a very strong sense of place and a very strong voice as well. They manage their own systems. They manage not only and the way they manage conflict was happening even before Charu or we entered the landscape, right? And it happens across Snow Leopard landscapes. They manage their own resources. They also have a strong voice in the sense, like just giving an example from Spiti, there was going to be a dam that was going to happen in somewhere in Lingti or somewhere a little bit lower down, and there was strong opposition to it, and they prevented the dam from happening. So I think those kind of broad scale brushes, I think, I don't think are paint accurate pictures, because I think in most places people have very strong voice and strong presence. I think the institutions, how they express these vary. Right. So, for example, things like media, etc., might not be the strongest in Spiti and Snow Leopard landscapes, because those are not traditional institutions that were anyway present there. But I think every landscape have these kind of institutions, have these mechanisms with work. Right. And I think it's important to understand those and approaches from those perspectives. Because, like, just giving, for example, pasture management in Spiti, and how they've been managing to do that with a very strong sense of place. So I just want to add to that, I think every landscape has very strong values, have different kinds of values which get expressed in institutions, and the forms of these institutions may vary. So I just wanted to add to that.
Yeah, if I may add to that, Muneeb. So the thing is, I don't think it varies much at all, And if you ask me, I see a lot of similarities in like the Snow Leopard work, the elephant work in Valparai or Mumbai Kurds, or even the rural landscapes that we are working in, which I didn't touch upon today. And this is something I also want to say that, essentially in all these, like in Bombay, if I take an example, there's the forest department which is affected, there are local people who are affected, there's a media. There are about 6-7 stakeholders you will find, the most important who are affected. But none of them will have the bandwidth to want to make a difference. Okay, they're all too busy doing their stuff. The only jobless person who wants to make a change is usually people like us as conservationists or biologists. And therefore, I believe all these interventions need catalysts, and we are excellent catalysts to do this. Okay. And another thing which I often talk about is that there are differing power structures in this stakeholders that we engage with. Okay. So there will be politicians which are way higher up, and then there'll be local tribals, for instance, in Bombay, who are very low down. And the only person who can, and to have a discussion and dialogue and try to get things to change, you have to have everybody sitting on the same level to talk to each other, right? And I think there our role becomes super important. Like me as a catalyst, I could get the citizens and the forest park management together. And then we all could get the media together. And at the end of it, everybody is sitting across the table and talking to each other, which was not the power dynamics when you started out with. Nobody was talking to the park management at all before we started, right? So I think everywhere, I don't think people differ. I don't think societies differ. I mean, of course, it's like Sweden is different than Bombay, but human beings, I mean, I may be totally wrong. I'm not a psychologist or something, but I think human beings, issues of justice, transparency, rights, they are no different for anybody. And I think when it comes to such administrative matters, if you look at it, essentially what we have done is we've increased transparency, we've increased engagement, okay, and in like the rural landscape, they've increased the compensation delivery systems a lot. So they've bettered the delivery of the just delivery of services. So I think these are all which is again there in the document, you know, empathy, like, you know, how we talk to these people makes such a big difference. So yeah, I don't know if I'm just rambling on, but yeah.
We're kind of running short on time, but Devika has asked one question, so let me ask you that. So she's asking, how have you been measuring the long-term conservation efforts, since most of them are focused on awareness and partnerships?
Yeah, so I am not doing anything there anymore. So we haven't really measured it, and I think I'm pretty much done with academics. Like, if anybody else wants to go measure it, please measure it. But the park management just telling us. So for one, there have been no human attacks at all. To 2017, there were 5 deaths. Okay, but because of the citizen monitoring of that place, they knew exactly which animal was doing it. And the pendulum had swung bang the other way, that nobody was even talking about removing that animal, you know, which is scary. So I had to say, no, you have to remove that animal. But 2018 till now, not a single attack on a person, although there's a highest density of humans and leopards in that landscape. So that is a good indicator, I believe. But I think more than that, when you talk to the park manager, he says that, you know, we don't even get a single call for trapping. And recently, IIT Bombay, they had a leopard, and I think the director must have been new, because that usually happens with, you know, and he was like, capture it. But in the time of COVID, the forest department went with Mumbaiers for SGMP. On Twitter, I will share the link on your page. A forest officer has written that they had a very good session, and I guess the trapping demand has gone. So that for me is more than enough. And, you know, I know it can be a much better case study and all, but right now I'm a bit burnt out and I don't want to do another study. So.
Hugo wants to ask one question. Maybe we might close after that. But Hugo, if you could. Thanks.
Hey Vidya, thanks for an amazing talk. It was like eye-opening and on point, and I really like that. So my question.
Yeah.
My question pertained to the media. So you basically, like very rightfully so, spoke about how the media is probably the biggest, you know, enterprise that can change people's minds. But then you also brought in the sensitization. Oh, sorry, sensibilization. Yes, that sensitization aspect of it. By definition, sensationalization is the bread and butter of the media. So how were you able to convince them that, you know, it's better for them to share true news, even if it's not that flamboyant, as compared to not sharing, you know, news that sounds but isn't all that?
That's a really good question. And so the thing is that I think somewhere, you know, I don't know if it's the right word, but subliminally, we are trying to get to the better nature of people. And in our talks, we would give them the basic results of, you know, of this, but then we would also show how, you know, I mean, how to put it, like we give an empathetic view of the animal, and we kind of, you know, without saying, oh, you guys are horrible and you're sensationalizing, we talk about how they can change the way people view the leopard. So for instance, please report that their administration has not put any lights which makes it dangerous for the children to walk there and increase conflict. You know, don't just write, oh, man-eater on the prowl, because it doesn't help anything. But if you write saying, oh, the administration hasn't provided toilets, that the garbage collection is not happening, that's why there are dogs. So we are requesting the media that put constructive stories out, which helps the situation, which helps both people and wildlife. Because if all you're going to do is increase fear, then the people will ask for knee-jerk reactions, and then you're affecting negatively the lives of people as well as wildlife conservation. So we are again trying to target their better nature, I think. And you check that paper that I have put up, it actually shows that the reportage has increased or the conflict has decreased, because they love putting pictures of these animals and, you know, stories about these animals. People love reading it. People don't want fearful news all the time either. So yeah, I don't know if it answered your question, but.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hugo. So we're really running short on time. So maybe if Juliet, if you could, if you could just maybe summarize the discussion, and maybe we can.
I think it would be incredibly hard to summarize this discussion, because there's so much in there, which has just been absolutely fascinating. But just, I think what I would take from all of this is that it's an amazing example of how relevant the partners' principles are in completely different settings. And I think in a way that's hugely encouraging, because it just means that, you know, fundamentally people are the same in different contexts, and people will recognize the different values of wildlife, but also they'll recognize this relationship that they have with nature and with wildlife in whatever form that wildlife takes. And I think for me, that's just it's a very optimistic but very reassuring message as well, and it's one which I think carries a lot of conservationists through difficult times.
Of course.
But it's really important to remember and have these stories like yours, which are really uplifting and very encouraging for the future. But I think really also for me, what really comes out of your example, Vidya, is this focus on trusting people, whether it's, you know, the sort of policy stakeholders or the people who are responsible for the management of wildlife, whether it's local people or even whether it's the media. And I think that, again, your example really shows that sort of trusting in people's better nature and really basing all your efforts on that is fantastic. And I just, as I say, for me, it's just an incredibly uplifting message. So thank you very, very much. And I'm sure that there'll be lots of other questions for you from people that haven't been able to ask you questions today. So I guess I think as the result of other webinars, obviously the webinar will be available for people who weren't here today and who'd like to look at it. But also Justine and Ajay, I guess will transmit Vidya's contact details to others so that they can get in touch directly, maybe, because I suspect there will be some other questions coming from it. But yeah, huge thanks. It was incredibly useful and entertaining and uplifting.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was good fun for me, because even I got to think about stuff that I've not thought of before many times. So,
great. Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, fantastic. Ajay, do you want to just close off, or?
Yes, so I think that's it. I'm sorry if there are any more people who wanted to ask questions, but like Juliet said, please get in touch or just send us your questions and we'll keep bombarding them to Vidya. And thanks so much, everyone, for coming again. I think our next talk will be in a couple of weeks' time. And we're trying to get someone from China, so it'll be nice, because
it's confirmed.
Great. That's wonderful.
It's confirmed for July 1st for a talk on China and the ecotourism project that they have there.
Great.
So that will be interesting. So we'll be sharing those details with you all shortly, but we hope to see you soon. And thanks, Vidya, so much.
Thank you, everybody. It was really nice to see you guys here.
And if those of you who have missed asking questions, I can share the details of Vidya's talk.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So there's another talk she's doing. She's been so busy, but thank you so much for taking time.
No.
Non-stop.
No, that was already recorded, so I'm done with the talk for today.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya.
Bye, yeah. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Vidya.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Ajay.
Thanks, Ajay.
Thanks, Ajay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.